All right.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon, Cassandra. Good afternoon, Jane. Chi.
Hello.
All right. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of excited. Brother Mbwebe. All right.
Yes.
Salute.
Mm-hmm.
Who else we have today? Who else we have with us? All right, Pam. How you doing, Pam? I see you, Pam. How you doing? Jessica.
Good. How you doing?
Okay. A few other people. Do we have Joy here?
She just texted me. 1 second.
All right. All right. I see my cousin Ife. Hi, Ife.
Hey, Dad.
She says she's waiting to join.
Okay.
Let her in. Someone has to let her in.
Yes.
I don't actually see her.
Oh, you're live. Oh, sorry.
I keep saying admit, and it's like she keeps failing. Like, I don't know why. She's the only one. I've like said admit like 10 times, and it's like keeps it goes away and then she pops back up. I don't know.
Oh,
why that's
let me just tell her try again.
Yeah.
Hey, Gigi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello. All right. We have Fatima here also, right?
Yes.
Yes. Hey, Fatima. All right. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm very excited about today's conversation and the panel because we have some of the greatest minds that deal with financial literacy, not just as a trade, but as a profession. You know, we have Cassandra Gordon on, who is a bank manager. We also have Pam Hamilton, who's an attorney as well as a business owner, and she coaches people in building their business. In fact, she has a company called Build the Biz. All right. We also have Jessica Abina Marshall, who's a licensed therapist and a business owner herself. So, you know, she wears several hats. Of course, Joy should be joining us soon, who's also a financial investor with over 30 years of experience. And then we have none other than my brother Mbwebe Inshangi, who just recently released a book called A Pot to Piss In, Intergenerational Wealth Planning for Black People. Hope y'all can see this. And he also teaches financial literacy in terms of cryptocurrency and Bitcoins and things of that nature. So, of course, we'll let them all get in their perspective, fields of expertise. But we just want everybody to know that we have some of the greatest minds in finances here to help our young people, as well as young adults, and those of us adults who are just being introduced to financial literacy, you know, trying to find our footing in this year of 2020, dealing with COVID and seeing a potential financial collapse in society. For some people, it's a good thing. For some people, it's a bad thing. So we thought it was best to bring these great minds together so they can really steer us in the right direction on what should we be doing in terms of finances. So we have Cassandra in terms of how banking actually works, you know, being that's a field of expertise. And again, Pam Hamilton is an attorney, a business attorney, so she can definitely give us the keys and the legal jargon and steps that we can take to start a business and be productive moving forward. Our brother Mbwebe, again, I read his book, I'm rereading it because he talks about intergenerational wealth and some terms that we haven't heard before, like I think accelerating banking and becoming your own bank, which I think is very important. And again, Joy will teach us on where we should be putting our money or just how to build our nest egg, particularly for young people to start now. And Jessica will talk about her experiences being a business owner as well as a therapist, because as we know, the key to wealth building is having the proper mindset. So that's dealing with psychology. So I'm gonna step off my soapbox and Jane, Fatima, is there anything that y'all would like to add on?
Yes, hi everybody. Sorry, we had a little bit of technical difficulty starting. I'm so glad that you all were able to log in. Before we start, we just need to set a set of protocols. Our co-host Fatima Sensei will be manning the chat room. If people have questions and they do not wish to ask it themselves, they can post it on the chat room. And Fatima would help them ask the question or pass it on to us. And also, if you need to ask a question, raise your hand, and so that we can have, make sure that everybody is picked in the order. Thank you. Mr. Cromwell, you practically said everything. We're going into a 3-part series, and in order to get to the other 2 parts, we need to go into history, into the background where we read, so that we can understand what happened in the past in order to move to the future, how to make it better, and some of the things that were done that we can learn from and we can correct, because what we are about to talk about is something that has been successfully done before, but for reasons that we will learn about in this history, and the things that we are not taught in class will be addressed today. While we're waiting for other people to join, we want to play clips that it's like 4 minutes clip,
Yeah,
right?
like 5
4 minute
minutes.
clips.
Yeah.
That still is in line with what we are about to talk about.
Yeah. I got these clips from the Instagram page called Black Wealth Renaissance. If you guys want to follow them, they're really motivational, and they also like taught me a lot of things about like financial things. So I'm gonna play. Give me 1 second. Can you guys see? Like, can you see my screen? Okay, just making sure. So the first one is Killer Mike. He is a rapper. Also, he's an activist, and he does a bunch of things now. And he just talks about how he built wealth and land ownership.
An individual, anything that does not benefit you as an individual or grow you or help you in a positive way, you would advise your friend to get out of their lives, right? So as a community, anything, the community is essentially a large, individual. As a community, you should not accept things that are not good for you, and things that are not beneficial for you, you should not keep accepting. You should cut those things out, or find your way around those things, and if you do that individually, your life becomes better. And if we do that as a community, our life becomes better as a community. And once the community does that, the bigger community benefits from that. Okay. So the stronger the Black as an individual is, right, the stronger your general community is, because other Black people are doing the same. The stronger the Black community becomes, the stronger the greater community becomes.
And you kind of go into depth in this in one of the episodes. If you haven't seen this docu-series, Trigger Warning with Killer Mike, or at least I can apply that ideology to the episode Living Black. Yeah. And you talk about how in Tulsa back in the 1920s, there was a Black Wall Street. Black people had to, buy with each other.
Well, I talk about the Black community, period. I don't
Okay.
want people to hear Black Wall Street in Tulsa and think that was the exception.
Okay.
No, that was the rule. That was not just a Black Wall Street in Tulsa. There was Auburn Avenue in the Edgewood District in Atlanta. There was Harlem, New York. There was Inglewood and places like Watts, and there were places like St. Petersburg, Florida, North Miami. You have went places and built yourself quicker than any other community of people ever. You were enslaved in 1865. By 1885, you already had banks and already had acquired millions of acres of land. Right. My great grandmother, who I knew up until the time I was 10 when she died, her mother died a few years before I was born. Her mother was born a slave. Her daughter, which is my great grandmother, died a landowner. The daughter of a slave died a landowner. And what significance does land ownership have? Well, you pay your landlord because they own your land. You pay corporations because they own your land. My sister just called me last night and said, Auntie sold some wood off the land, so me, you, and Lovey have a check to split up. You know what I'm saying? That's what land ownership does. So for me, I've seen no group of people accelerate financially as quick as we've been able to, education-wise, as quick as Dick Gregory often talked about that. So we need to congratulate that, and we need to focus in and make that light a laser. So instead of the gas station or bodega that you currently go to, you need to find one that's either Black-owned or one that hires Black people, or one that is sympathetic and empathetic to the community and treats you well. Yeah. You support those businesses there, and by support the community, you grow a stronger community. You have better relations with other communities.
That was Killer Mike. The second video I'm going to be showing you is from Lawrence Tate. He's from Power. He was an actor in Power. He's just going to be touching up on the importance of ownership and practicing group economics in the Black community.
Individual, anything that does not benefit you as an individual or grow you or help you in a positive way, you would advise your friend to get out of their lives, right? So as a
One second.
This is commerce. There's room for everybody at the table. We just need to be at the table with our ideals, with our concepts, with our narratives, not narratives that were created by someone else.
Is it moving?
We have a rich history, and it goes way before slavery. Talking about, everything after that is progress. No, we go before that. So this is commerce. This is there's room for every the root of the issues. Then we can kind of have a better sense of groupism. I'm always telling groupism, unity and group operation. That's what it is. So for us, when I say we value and place a lot of merit and achievement on individual, they say, well, you got Jay, you got Michael Jordan. We talking about people. This is commerce. There's room for every billionaires, not individuals. You can say that community in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or in North Carolina, or in Queens.
Oh no, sorry about that. Let's just get into the meeting, okay? Sorry about that. Technical difficulties.
That's quite all right, Chi-Chi. I think we get the gist of it. And again, we have experts in itself. Again, Killer Mike is a rapper, and he brought up some good points. However, he's not a financial expert. No. He's not a business attorney. He's not a bank manager. He's not an investment broker, and he's not an author of financial literacy. But fortunate for us, we have those people here. All right. So, so without any further ado, let's introduce everyone to our panel. And I do believe Joy is on. I don't know if she's in yet, but we also have Joy Jackson as well. But the first person I do want to introduce is a lifelong friend, more like a big sister to me. Watched me grow up, and it's none other than attorney Pam Hamilton. Pam is the CEO and founder of Build a Business. She's the CEO of Build the Biz. You can find her on Facebook and other social media platforms, I believe. But I will let Pam do her own introduction because, of course, she can tell you what she's into better than I can. Pam, can you hear us?
I can hear you. How you doing, Ted?
I'm doing great. I'm so honored and humble and thankful that you decided to join us today. Could you please tell everyone a little bit about your company, Build the Biz?
Yeah, so my name is Pam Hamilton. I am an attorney and business coach. I have a couple of different companies, and one of them is Build a Biz Workshop. And I have a Facebook group called Build a Biz Insiders, which is where Ted is talking about people being on Facebook. My main website is pamhamilton.com, which is actually my law practice and coaching practice. And I build everything out of that. And it's a corporation. So one of the things that you want me to talk about, what I'm going to be talking about now, I'll just introduce myself.
The introduction is cool for now.
So I really love helping people figure out how to build real businesses, because that's one of the things I don't see enough of in our communities.
All right. Next, we have Cassandra Gordon, who's a bank manager. been in banking for several decades. Am I correct? Though she doesn't look like it. Though she doesn't look like it, she's been in banking for several decades as an executive, correct?
Correct.
All right. And would you like to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, as Tad mentioned, I've been in banking for 30 plus years in various capacities, but primarily in the product management role. And when people think about banking, they don't think about products. But in order for a bank to thrive, they have to be able to sell something. And that's the products that I offer up. And so, one of the things that Tad wanted to tap me on is when we go out to different people in the community, such as small businesses, even some of our young people, oftentimes there's this kind of like shy way. They don't really understand what we do in banking. So they're not always open to coming to us in the traditional sense. And so one of the things we have to do is just reassure them that there's opportunity there. There are just ways that there's regulations, there are things and policies that are there, but there are things that we can do to make ourselves better. Not that we have to align, but there are ways that we can just make ourselves better as a community, leveraging the banking platforms.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right, our next person is a business owner and licensed therapist, and she's no stranger to the platform. And it's none other than our sister, Jessica Abina Marshall. Jessica, would you like to reintroduce yourself to those who haven't met you?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I just want to preface by saying I am a business owner, but by no means am I an expert in finances and in regards to, I'm not, I just wanted to make sure that people understand that I am also in this journey I'm also in this journey as well. So I'm a licensed social worker who created a business out of a passion. And I realized as I was going through the process, how emotional it was, how much business triggered these underlying needs and generational trauma, and on a larger scale and on a smaller scale. So I'm a licensed social worker, and I examine both the social aspects of communities as well as the individual aspects, how we personally deal with things in our environments and our families and our communities. So I realized though, when I started a business, just from the thought alone to actually creating it and going through the process, it uncovered so many layers within myself, within my self-worth, my self-esteem, and it was just so many important aspects to it that I feel is really important. So I have this concept where I call it mental fortitude that is required to really grow and sustain a business, but we also cannot ignore these systematic issues, these cultural issues that we have had to experience, and we have the residual effects from our lives here in this country as African Americans or people of African descent. So I just wanted to put into context my role here in this discussion. I'm very happy and honored to be here to talk about from my point of view and to sit with such knowledgeable people on the panel. So thanks for having me today.
All right, thank you. And next we have my brother, Mbwebe Nshangi, the author of A Pot to Piss In, intergenerational wealth planning for Black people, as well as his company that educate people for cryptocurrency. Brother Mbwebe, would you like to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, give thanks for the opportunity to be on such an illustrious panel. And I'm really ready to sit at the foot of all the sisters out here with all the knowledge, because that's how it should be. But I just want to, my background is in history. I've been writing about African diasporic history in all levels of culture, health, even conspiracies to a degree, just to kind of, ride basically cultivate the next generation of knowing the knowledge that our scholars have left us, so we have our identity. And I just kind of fell into financial literacy mainly because I was let go of my job abruptly and had to really deal with that age-old question of, what do you do with your money. And that put me on the journey of understanding that the crux of everything is about money. Everything we do is serviced around money. We get jobs, we go to school to get degrees. Everything is based upon having currency so you can take care of yourselves. So this journey has taken me there, and I look forward to both learning and sharing what I've learned in this journey. As Jessica said, is we're all students, and you know, we can put out masters and say that we're all these titles, but there's always something new to learn, and I look forward to learning from you all this evening.
All right, thank you, brother. And last but not least, we have our sister, Joy Jackson, with over 30 years of financial experience and investing. Joy, can you hear me? All right, her mic is muted at the moment.
You unmuted?
Yes, could you unmute her mic, please?
Yes. I thought you could do that.
I should be able to, right? Let's try again. Let's try again.
Joy can unmute herself by clicking on the mic down by her
yes,
on her screen.
Can you see it, Joy?
Yeah, we asked you to unmute, so a notification should pop up.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Hi.
Yes, how you doing?
Good afternoon, everyone. How?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So could you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Great. Well, as you said, I've been in finance for approximately years. This is what I started as a research assistant at Shearson Lehman, and I went through the ranks, and I from there through research to investor relations, you name it, and ending up on the trading floor, and from to work directly with individuals. I started before I left the trading floor by volunteering at nonprofits teaching financial literacy. I always wanted to do something in my knowledge with the financial world and financial literacy. A lot of that really came from an instance just before I went to college. I was at a Quick and Riley. I don't know if any of you remember Quick and Riley, pretty similar to Charles Schwab, actually, in what was then the MetLife building. And I was standing there waiting to speak with a rep about setting up some mutual funds. I must have stood in that Quick and Riley for about 15 minutes, and this rep acknowledged everyone except for me. Of course, I was the only person of color in that Quick and Riley. And I remember at that moment, I said, I really don't need him to learn anything. I can find out the information on my own. And when I had the opportunity, I decided I would share that information. I volunteered at a nonprofit. Actually, that nonprofit is Strive. I wanted to assist with teaching financial literacy to some of their courses and groups. One of the managers at Strive actually was one of my earlier clients when I came up to this side of the business. He thought it was a great idea. And from there, everything led one to the other, and they pulled me into a consulting contract and actually wanted me on board to consult and be paid as a consultant because I volunteered for about 5 years teaching financial literacy to the participants in their various courses, the basics of financing, the basic of investing, the basics of budgeting and saving. And I think it's really important because within our community, I think being financially informed makes for an individual who can contribute to the community, who can then share information, who can take advantage of it to improve their situation. And it in turn, it makes for a healthy community and a thriving community when you have the individuals who live there also contributing to it and understanding the importance of keeping their money within that community and the power of their money and the power of economics. So that's what I still do financial literacy, and I both volunteer and am a consultant, but I'm an independent advisor, and I work with individuals, nonprofits, and organizations with basically creating and implementing goals to help them achieve their solutions to help them achieve their financial goals. So I am an independent. I'm not tied to an institution or a company, I basically work with them independently, and that enables me to select and work with any investment or any vehicle out there without being, without being restricted to what a company offers. It's truly about what works best for that individual.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I want to pose this first question to Sandy, Cassandra. So for the young people, right, who's just starting to get into the world, just starting to learn to work, and they need to do something with their money, they need to put their money away. What's the proper steps to opening a bank account and make sure that the money that you put away in terms, i.e. savings and checkings, work to your advantage?
Okay, so I'm gonna, this is my disclosure, so no one, the SEC doesn't come over here and do something to me. So I am not a financial advisor. I am not a licensed financial advisor.
Right.
But one of the key things that are important to open up a bank account, we have to verify that you are who you say you are. So that means, you have to have proof of where you were born. You have to have a proof that you can contribute to the account that you're going to open, what we refer to as a source of funds. So whether it's, your job, or whether it's, an allowance or whatever, but for banks to make sure that they're not laundering money, they have to make sure that they understand the customer's source of funds. So those are really the primary key things. And the KYC is what know your customer is, just to make sure that, Tad Cromwell, if you're Tad Cromwell, or are you Clarence Cromwell? So, we have to make sure you are who you say you are. And we have to be able to validate that. And if it's for a small business, and if you say that you're kind of, set up, let's say, at around the corner from 488 Waverly Avenue, because I know that address, we have to, go and make sure it's a valid business setup. There's a front end, and we see that it's not just, some boarded up, building that folks are, like, you're saying you're opening up a business and it's legitimate. Why don't I see, activity? Why don't I see, it look like what you say it's supposed to look like, or what that business is?
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So that segues into my next question that I'll pose to Pam. As Sandy just talked about, verification of who people are, because as we know right now, this is the age of scamming, where people are milking people's bank accounts and creating dummy bank accounts. But she talked about business, establishing business, and having it recognized by the bank. What are some of the fundamental steps that a young person could take in terms of opening or starting their own business? There's a particular young lady that I know. She's very artsy. She's about 8 years old, and she wants to start her own business. At 8 years old, she makes little earrings and all these nice things. What's some advice that you can give her to start her business, to be financially free, Pam?
Okay, so if she's 8, there's some things she can't do by herself. She needs her parent to be involved. But her parent can help her get a domain name and a DBA, and she can work online to actually be able to sell her artwork and her jewelry and stuff. She can make t-shirts and stuff through a number of different print shops and print stores, and all of that stuff can be documented. So I would say to her parents to get her a DBA with her name on it, because she's a little too young to have a formal business yet.
What's a DBA?
That's a doing business as certificate that you can get at your county clerk's office. And it costs anywhere from $20 to $40, depending on what county you're in. And then you can have that DBA, and her parents, again, would have to open her bank account because she's not able to do it. There's a lot of different places that online that she can work with. When she's 13, she can work with by herself. But until then, she can work with her parents and set up an account and be able to sell her t-shirts, sell her jewelry, all of that online. And if she can learn how to keep what she sells with a just in writing, just on graph paper, she can start to build the history of her accounts. And when she's 16, she can have a parent help her open a bank account. So there's things she can do at 8 that starts her on that path if she's going to keep good, build good habits of, one, keeping records of what she's doing, what she's selling, how much money she's making, and know. One of the things that a lot of people don't know is being able to know how much it costs you to make that stuff, so that you know when you're selling it that you're actually making a net profit. That margin between what you sell it for and what you make it for is your money that you get to keep. So you have to be able to understand that part when you're selling it and marketing it, and know what all your costs are. So those are some of the things. I see Ife.
Yes. Yes. You said at 13, what were they able to do at 13, between the ages of 13 and 16?
Between 13 and 16, they can work with a lot of the different t-shirt companies that will print their shirts for them and sell them on demand. They can work with different companies like that. PayPal requires you to be 18, so she needs her mother to work with her to set up PayPal. But some of these shops help you get around it, because if you're 13, then you can set up a shop and they will do all of the collecting the money and putting it in your account for you. So you don't end up not being able to sell the stuff online.
Okay, that's good information. That's good information to know. Jessica, as a business owner.
Ife had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ife had a question?
Yeah. So is it the same in every state? Do you know that if you do your DBA, you're doing business as, at the county clerk office, is that the same in every state, or is that just in, I'm not sure where you are, New York or New Jersey?
Every state has a DBA system that you can work with through the county clerk's office. However, I want to say this. I'm saying DBA because this kid is 8.
Yeah, I'm talking about my kid that's 14.
Okay, yes. So as a kid, do that, DBA at your county clerk's office. But once you start making money in your business, or if you're an adult, I would suggest you get a real business structure, because that's going to provide you liability protection, and it's going to offer you a whole lot of different abilities to do things that you can't do as a DBA or as an individual.
Okay, and then the second question, you said about opening the bank account. Now, I already opened him up a bank account, but he's 14. Are you saying to go when he's 16 for the business
14.
account?
No, he's 14, so he can open up an account in some states. And in some states, you have to be 16.
Okay,
right.
But can he get the bank account opened as a business at that age, or does he have to keep it as like a child under my name or his dad's name for his age? You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to ask Cassandra that, because she's the banker.
Well, here's the thing. If he has a tax ID, in order to open a bank account under a business, you must have a tax ID number. So even if he's doing like a DBA, if he does not have a tax ID number, for the most part, you can't open a bank account without a tax ID number. And that, for the most part, says that you're legitimately set up as a business and you are entitled to some of the benefits as a business. Right. You know, from a taxation perspective, your liabilities that you can write off in your tax. This is, again, I'm not offering up tax advice or anything like that, but just, you know, that's how you would go about setting up a bank account under, you know, under a business.
Right. And you can get a tax ID number as a DBA. You can get a tax ID number as a business, as a corporation or LLC.
Right. Nonprofit?
Yeah, you can get a tax, but nonprofit is a whole different ball game, because there's a lot of restrictions and rules. Yeah. So you should be very clear if you're trying to start a not-for-profit, what it is you think you're doing, because you can't create stuff where you take money out of it for yourself if it's a not-for-profit. Okay, so that's a whole different ball of wax. Okay, but you can do it with all of the other business structures.
Thank you.
All right. So now I'll go to Jessica. Jessica, as a business owner, and just what have been some of the challenges that you have found as a therapist? Because as we said at the top of the show, dealing with wealth, you have to have a particular mindset, i.e. psychology. So you being a therapist, what are the mental challenges that you found for yourself, as well as other people that you've spoken with, in terms of starting a business and keeping and sustaining it?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So just in general, when we look at stats for businesses and we see Black people have an enormous spending power, we know that, and we're creating businesses like never before. But when you look at statistics, you always see that we're always the last, even behind Hispanic, those who identify as Hispanic. And there's people that have been trying to analyze that and understand that. And I mean, it became really clear to me, there's so many factors to why it's harder for us to create businesses that can sustain a wealth that we can pass down generationally and kind of get us out of this being last place financially in society. And so what I've come up, well, let me break it down a little bit on a psychological level. They were finding that Black people doing through research, different places were researching this problem. They were saying that Black people as a whole, we tend to live in the moment. We don't tend to prepare financially. We have, and I don't like to talk negative about us. I'm just putting out information that is written, trying to understand our behaviors with saving and creating wealth and building businesses. But when I started to peel back layers, I always say everything has a reason. You go deeper into the reasoning and it actually gets simpler and simpler. It's not as complex. We understand our history, which we all have been pounded into our heads about us coming from slaves. And I don't accept that as being my only history here, but I do know that's relevant for our role here in this country, that it has left us with what Joy DeGroy calls post-traumatic slave syndrome, and how that has trickled into every aspect of our lives. So one theme that I pick up from that is this sense of self, like she calls it pervasive low self-esteem, and a sense of being inadequate, just really not knowing our value and our worth. And we have all these messages about what we can do, what we can attain, that we pass down generationally. So we haven't, and we tend to quote unquote live in the moment. And I peeled back that layer and I thought, well, if people haven't felt secure, haven't felt stable, haven't felt worthwhile, they're less likely to try to build towards a future and create wealth that can be passed down. It's harder because obviously getting and accessing funding, the thought processes that are behind building wealth, all those things, we had challenges and blockages in that area. So when I'm speaking for myself, when I decided, I had a little hustle idea and I wanted to create a business, I didn't realize how many challenges I was going to get, at least from the start, from my own family or from people close to me. People, there's, it's very important to surround yourself with people who understand and it can accept someone who's an entrepreneur and has that mind. But a lot of people, we have different thoughts on business, but there's challenges right there. So having people support you in that way, understanding the value of having a business, really trying to grow it. And then there's getting funding. So getting investments, getting people to really pour into your vision and say, yeah, we can do this. I also know, I might be talking all over the place. I have a lot of different areas that I'm piecing together here when it even comes to our support networks and our family systems. And when I think about building, so okay. Let me rewind because I'm all over the place. I'm getting a little nervous.
You're doing great.
You hit something powerful. You hit something very powerful.
Very powerful.
Very powerful.
Okay.
I want to say this real quick.
Okay.
Because I want to come back to you while you collect your thoughts. Because this is going to segue into something I wanted to ask you way back. All right. You talked about support and lack of support and family support. which
Not
I think,
just family.
which I think is very key. So our brother in Boybe wrote a book about generational wealth. And without having that level of support, how do we, and this question is for you, brother in Boybe, how do we build generational wealth? And unfortunately, as Sister Jessica was talking about the mindset challenges, folks with low self-esteem who may not share your vision in business, how do you get a group on board knowing that you're trying to build generational wealth for them, but they can't see the vision or the efforts that you're putting forth? I want you to speak to that and the importance of building generational wealth.
Okay, that's a loaded puzzle. You know what I mean? Because you would think that, once you get the information, all you gotta do is just tell people, look, I found a way, let's do it. But there's a conditioning, as Jessica was talking about, there's that post-traumatic syndrome, slavery syndrome, that we've been robbed of the ability to count on ourselves. We focus on the crab theory is ever abundant than ever, where we'll pull the next person down, oppose the client, using it to pull ourselves up. So there's that conditioning of us not trusting each other. So on the low, we'll see somebody doing something, but we're going to give them some shade because we're thinking, well, how long can he tread water? Meaning, let me see if he's still doing this in 6 months. And if he's not doing it 6 months, see, I told you that ain't going to work. So I think what it really comes down to is us as an individual, that person that is venturing out to do this thing is, and I always love about what the reggae artist Chronic says, is do it for the love and not for the likes, is that it's not about trying to get everybody to follow you and get all these people to do what you're doing. First of all, get yourself there. Because when you get yourself there, then you could really speak from a perspective of, okay, I was there, this is where I am, come with me. I think far too often we find people that talk about how I found a way, but they're not even implementing it yet, or they're in the first stages of it. And yeah, the hype is there, but this is not something that's going to just turn over overnight. When we think about polarity and those principles of time, it may take something just as long to get it back as it was to lose it in the first place. So learning about freeing yourselves in this country, especially with the over 400 plus years of indentured servitude, adding on the fact that, we've been robbed of our culture, our background, our education, and ability to think for ourselves and to get ourselves out of a situation. It's going to take some time, but that's not to say, all right, well, I'm going to do nothing, I'm just going to let it happen. But those that are very serious about it, and that's what I said for myself, I had to, really dedicate myself in realizing I need to do my diligence. There's this rule that I like to bring up that rich folks say, they practice. It's the 5-hour rule. If you're not spending 5 hours a week learning about liberating or in respects of finances, getting financially literate at least 5 hours a week, then you are being irresponsible. So taking 42 minutes a day, 7 days a week, learning about financial literacy can get you to a point where you'll be far better off than you were before. So it really comes down with you earning your own stripes. I would love to move as a unit, move as a crew, but the crew needs to know where you're going. And the only way they know where you're going is if you've been there. So I think it really comes down to first, that person putting in the work, the diligence, the sweat equity, and then paving that way so that now my cutlass is cleared up enough space that you can see where we're going, opposed to all we see is this bush and we're just hoping that the ancestors will guide us our way.
Yeah. Can I just say something to that? Because it's really interesting. It's like, I see so many Black businesses that open up and they're counting on Black people to support them. And they're complaining and they're not really understanding how to build a business, and they end up going out of business because Black people didn't come. And I think it's really important to learn how you build a business that's a business and promote the business. And if Black people come, that's great. That's a bonus. That's what you want. But you have to build the business. And you can't make it be that Black people are supposed to come because you're Black. If that's the only reason you're offering them to come to your business, you're not going to have a business very long. And what I find is you really have to prove yourself to Black folks. So I've been an attorney for 26 years. I've been working and coaching for 8 years, and I started my own practice. I'm the only Black attorney where I live. I'm the only Black attorney that has their own practice. And there's only 2 other Black attorneys, period, but they don't have their own practice. And 98% of my customers are white. Okay. And there's starting to be Black people, but I had to be around. I had to be there. I had to do the work, and I had to build the business. And if you don't do that, you're never going to get the Black folks to come, because unlike all the other cultures, if you look at Jews and Hispanics and Latinos and whatever, they go out of their way to go where their people are.
Yeah.
Every other immigrant people that come here, they go out of their way to go where their people are. We don't do that. And so because we don't do that, you really have to have that fortitude to make it be that it's not about you. It's not because of you. It's not that you're not worth it, that they're not coming. They just don't get it, but they will. And that's because of that trauma. You know, you have to look at that.
Can I just add? Oh, sorry.
My question is with
And I still want to get a question in from Joy, Jane. After your question, I still want to speak to Joy. But go ahead, Jane.
Okay, you can ask her, then I'll come off after you.
All right, because as Cassandra gave us the foundation to open an account, Pam told us about the business, how to start a business for young people. Jessica gave the psychology. Our brother Mbwebe talked about generational wealth. With Joy being an investor, Joy, once the wealth is built, what are some of the basic things that a family who've accumulated some money, what's a good place that they can, a safe place that they can put money? Like someone who has no financial literacy at all, they just came to one of your seminars, your presentations for the very first time, they don't know where to start. Which direction would you guide them? Because as Black people, we do have money. Unfortunately, we spend it in the wrong place. So what would be a place?
Well, first of all, I think before you can even talk about where to invest, you have to start with the basics. So many people are so quick to look at jumping in. Oh, I want to invest. I want to make it big on the market. Let's start with the basics. You need to know, first of all, what is your goal? What are you investing for? If it's just to make money, that makes no sense whatsoever. There's an end game to this goal. Say in the case of retirement, when most people who are in their 401k plans or who are saving distinctly for retirement really are not looking at the end game. It's more than just to accumulate money. It's because when you retire, you need an income. So investing and saving for retirement is to have a retirement income. You want to accumulate money because whatever you've accumulated by the time you retire, that's going to need to create a stream of income to sustain you throughout your entire retirement. So the same goes with basic investing. So if you're investing and if you're accumulating money, what is the goal? What are you accumulating that money for? Once you have that goal, then you have to break down what amount do you need to accumulate to achieve that goal? And what is the period of time that will be needed to make that accumulation? So that's where you need to start before you start thinking about where's the safe investment or what is the safe investment for me? Because those factors then will help to decide how you invest to accumulate that money or to save.
Oh, wow. Thank you. And that's a great point. Great point. Jane, there was something you want to add it on or ask?
No, I just want to understand. I'm an immigrant to this country, and since Black Lives Matters, I started hearing about redlining, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I never really knew about this history. So for me, I want to understand what is redlining and how did it affect Black people? And could that be the reason why Black people are behind in starting up, you know, if some of the things that has been done to them has put some kind of mental health challenge on them with their progress in building wealth and timidness in forming businesses. Cassandra, could you shed some light?
Yes, I could. Yeah. So redlining is really what the banking system used to pick and choose the value of communities, as well as to pick and choose who would be worthy of receiving loans and things like that. So let's say there's like I just saw an article recently, so, and they call it zoning as well. So what typically happens when you want to sell your home, this is a classic example, okay? What most realtors tell Black owners, take anything down that is of relevance to your culture, because that will certainly put just kind of negatively impact the value or the perceived value of your home. And I read an article recently, and I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, and it was you know, a biracial couple. The realtor, you know, told the wife, who was African American, it was worth like 50 or even 100 grand less than when another realtor went in and they took down everything Black, you know, related, and the white husband showcased the home. The amount and the value of the home immediately went up. So what, you know, you hear like white flight and things like that. When there's a perception that when we move into a community, that the value of that community goes down, which is, you know, I'm going to get political now, which is why you hear Trump talk about, you know, the Black people are going to move into your area and then, you know, the decline of your homes are going to go down. But the banking system has, some banks, I don't want to say all, a lot of the major banks have come in and they have, you know, said that they're not going to, you know, do that again. And there's certainly regulations have been put in place to make sure that banks, you know, invest so much into the communities that they serve. But our Black banks have been the ones who say, you know, I trust who you say you are, and I trust your word, and I trust the value that you bring. And so that's where a lot of our Black banks have come in to help the community, because they have, you know, I was just reading that, you know, Maggie Walker, when she had her bank was back in 1903. But her bank actually, and it was a Black woman who owned the bank. They talk about Jane Fraser at Citigroup, but Maggie Walker was the first. And when I tell you that her bank sustained the Great Depression because she loaned to the Black community, and she actually, you know, and it was like what we talk about today, like, who do you know? And how she approved the loans. It wasn't through some algorithm or some, you know, equations or something to that effect. It was really based on the relationships that those people actually had with each person within the community. So are they good with paying their debts? That, you know, are they a person of their word? Are they behind in anything? And that's what a lot of us, I believe, where we are kind of like removed from mainstream. Because even today, when you go to get a loan, it's through, you know, especially for a small business, it's through your Dun & Bradstreet, you know, Paydex score. And that's really just based on how, you know, how likely are you to, you know, pay your bills on time. But, you know, that's what your credit score too, right? How likely are you to pay your bills on time? And that determines whether you're 800, 700, 600. And so those are the things that the redlining and the zoning, that's what it's done to our community for decades. I was going to say centuries, but we've only been free, you know. So, but that's really what redlining and zoning is about. And redlining, you know, they have these regulations that they say what they're supposed to, you know, invest into the communities. But guess what? They find ways around that too.
So in other words, is it a thing of the past, or is still going on underneath?
It's still going on. So when you think about what we're going through today with the pandemic, right? We keep hearing about all the small businesses getting at their piece of the pie, but a lot of our Black small businesses aren't even getting a portion of those trillions of dollars that the government made available. Why is that? Why would like the owner of, a major chain, need to have to ask for that? Those are the things. And here's the other part. With the SBA association, the banks, they don't have to tell you no, because those loans are guaranteed through the Small Business Administration. So really the risk is minimal, because it's not going to be a total loss. They're going to get something back. But they rather not take that risk on our business or our vision. They rather, I can go on and on, but I'll let somebody else chime in.
I would like to get Brother Mbwebe's take on it, because I know in his book he's mentioned it, and I'm going to go after Brother Mbwebe. I want to hear what Pam and Joy and Jessica has to say. But Brother Mbwebe did touch on this in his book. Could you speak to that, Brother Mbwebe?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to come from a perspective of history, is that most importantly, what we're looking at is we have to study history. This is systemic. This is not something that has just happened, just started to come out of the blue. This is something that is systemic. It is rooted in racism. But the whole banking system entirely is predicated upon systems of arbitrage. They're using money methods that are against folks, that to their advantage, and they won't let you know about it. So it doesn't matter what color you are, but we do get hit the most. But when we look at the basic thing that I'll mention, and maybe Cassandra, you could verify, is the fractional lending system and how that works with how banks, first of all, they don't make money spending their own money, they spend your money. So for every deposit that you put into an account, they're assured a 10x uptick on the amount that you put in. So if you deposit $100, the bank turns that into $1,000, which is supported by the government. And then what they do with that $1,000 now is keep 100 on the books, and they take that $900 and then they use that to then set up new loans with anyone they choose. Most importantly, in our communities, they've been people outside of our communities. So unknowingly, we've been financing our own gentrification by putting money into Chase and into Citigroup and things, Citibank, is that they take those deposits and then they give them to developers outside of our communities that now come in and develop in our communities. There is a huge conversation piece that is not spoken about when it comes to banking, because personally, I think that bankings are predators. And it's not against, anyone that works for a bank, but the system itself.
I'm not taking
Pardon? Okay. So when we understand the history of how this banking system works, then we can realize that, okay, well, how can I now leverage it and use those same tactics to my benefit? Robert Kiyosaki said that in Rich Dad Poor Dad, that, basically, if they told you about how the monetary system worked, Henry Ford said this, that if people knew how the monetary system and the banking system worked, there'd be a rebellion overnight. Because people don't understand the way the system is designed is for the banking system. Why do they have the best buildings? Because they take all of our deposits, and what do we get in return? We might get a 1% or 2%, at best 2%, and that's very few and far between. Right. While they're making proceeds off of the loans they give out, that $1,000 that you deposited and it turned into $10,000, that $9,000 of loans that they set up in credit cards or loans to someone else, when they're getting paid back in interest, the bank is receiving that, not you, the individual who seeded the loan in the first place. So these are forms of arbitrage that happens, and redlining is one of them, but there's a whole other plethora of tools that have been put in place to enable banks to create this wealth. And unfortunately, we need them, because if we didn't have banking system, the whole economic system would collapse. But we do have to realize that there's a certain side of the field that we can play. We've been getting played and scored on for so long, but now, and stuff that I've learned, and that's why I put it in the book, A Pot to Piss In, we finally have a pot to piss in, so to speak, where we can use this information to then become our own banks and then create this intergenerational wealth. And I don't want to take up all the time, but I would love to talk more about it. This is where I'm like, let's take the gloves off. Let's take the gloves off and be real about it, because
let's do
the
that.
system,
That's why we're here.
yeah, they practice arbitrage. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Let me just say,
I'll pass the mic, but come back.
I'm just gonna say one thing to your point. If you ever look at when you're looking at the financial stability of banks, the first thing they have is their assets. Those assets translate to the deposits. So that's how much in deposit cash that those customers that these banks have on hand. And to your point, what we do before we, approve a loan or whatever, we're looking at the cost of funds. What's the cost of funds to a bank? That's really how much it costs us to now lend money to someone else. And so we make sure that that interest that's being charged is not higher than our cost of funds, because we still got to make money.
Pam, would you like to speak to that?
I do, because back in the day, there were Black banks, and there were a lot of Black banks, and those banks invested in Black communities. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I look at and I want to speak to is that we talk a lot about the systemic racism. We talk a lot about the redlining and zoning, but we don't talk about our part in it. So a lot of that is because we have PTSD and we just can't, deal. But when you go back to when I was a kid, my great-grandmother, who died when I was 35, used to always talk about how we had Marqueztown, and she grew up in Marqueztown, and it was owned by her father. And Marqueztown, so not everybody was slaves that came through. Her father came from Haiti, or her grandfather, I'm trying to remember, I think it was her father, and he was free, and he brought this piece of land, and they built schools, and they built the bank, and they built the grocery store, and everybody that grew up all came and put businesses there. And it's not famous like Tulsa, but it was a thriving business, and it was called a town. And that was what Tulsa was. It was a town, it was a strip of land, and it was built all of these businesses, and all these people built their businesses on and around this strip of land. And it became a self-sustaining community, just like Marqueztown did. And Marqueztown was a strip of land. I was surprised when I saw how little it was, but it became big, and it was self-sustaining, and there was people there, and they built their community around it. And what we hear about all the time is about how the white mob destroyed it, how they came and they burnt it down, and they killed the people, and they left all the people homeless in 1921. We hear that all the time. What we don't hear is by the end of 1922, they had rebuilt it. They rebuilt those homes. They rebuilt businesses, right? And what was so powerful about it is that everybody was investing in that community. Everybody was working through in that community. When a kid got to a certain age and they wanted to get a job, they went to one of the businesses and they could get a job because the people weren't scared of them. They knew, you know what I mean? It was in their community because there were all these businesses. What really got rid of, what really started to destroy Tulsa, like all of the other Black communities, that were also that, was that once there was desegregation,
Exactly.
white people were able to come in and build their own businesses in those neighborhoods. And a lot of the Black people that had been limited to actually buying in that neighborhood and buying from other Black people began to go buy from white people. And they began to go buy outside of the neighborhood. And the white people that they brought from the stores didn't live in that neighborhood. They went outside the neighborhood and spent that money. So there was no more money coming into the neighborhood. And so a lot of times when banks are zoning Black neighborhoods and saying we don't want to put money in there, that's because there's no businesses there. There's no infrastructure to support it and make it worthy. There's no banks. There's no convenience stores other than these bodegas. There's no actual businesses that would make it be the same value as if you go into a white neighborhood. And the kids that are growing up have to really struggle to go outside their neighborhood that maybe they're scared to do up because we all have these self-esteem issues, to go find a job. And then when they go, the white people are scared of them half the time and won't hire them. Now, some will, but some of us don't have the skills. And so it's really important for us to start to build Black businesses in our communities and model that that can happen so that people can have a different outlook of who we are and what we are for ourselves, and to be able to hire our own kids, because we're not doing that enough. And we're not bringing that money back into our communities. When we're spending the money in our community grows. And our community gets self-sustaining. And our community and the properties in that community come up in value. You know, and that's something we have to do. And sometimes we have to not look at what the white people are doing and figure out what we can do for ourselves. And sometimes I just don't see us doing enough of that.
And you know, Pam, I thank you for saying that, because that's the whole purpose of this Zoom conference, because the onus is on us to develop our own communities. And and that's why I appreciate this panel, because we all are responsible individuals that understand the role that we have to play. And hopefully those with the mindset of waiting on other people to do for us, this will resonate with them, that the onus is on us to do for ourselves. And that's why I'm glad to have these great minds. Now, I believe that because I did want to speak with Joy real quick. Joy, I believe a question was posed to you about Roths and IRAs in terms of investing. Is Joy still there? Joy, you still here?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, because I didn't see you. I'm
Can
sorry.
You
did you get the question in terms of Roth IRAs, custodial Roth IRAs, and how does that work?
Okay, the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA. Okay, yes. Basically, the main difference is a Roth IRA, they both, first of all, the similarities are they both accumulate and grow tax deferred, which basically means that any interest, dividends, or gains are not taxed while the account, before withdrawals are made from the account. So a savings account and a regular brokerage account, even if you are not taking the money out of those accounts, any interest, dividends, or growth will be taxed each year. So both IRAs, there is no taxation during the accumulation phase. It grows tax deferred. Where the differences occur, the traditional IRA, is deductible. So contributions made to a traditional IRA are deductible. When you retire, as far as a traditional IRA is concerned, and begin to take withdrawals for retirement, at that time, your withdrawals are taxed. The entire amount is taxed. With a Roth IRA, you do not get a tax deduction. So you're putting in post-tax dollars. There is no tax deduction, but when you retire and you make withdrawals, the only thing that is taxed are the gains. So if you can, and you do have an option, I would recommend a Roth IRA. There are lots of other benefits with a Roth IRA. You hold it for 5 years or more, you can make withdrawals to put towards purchasing a home as a first-time home buyer. You're able to also make withdrawals towards education without an early withdrawal penalty, or a penalty because it isn't being withdrawn and used for retirement after the age of 59 and a half. So they both have their purposes. Depending on what your goal is or your end game is, one can be better than the other.
Okay. So now, could you speak specifically about a custodial Roth IRA? Is that different?
So I don't understand the question of custodial.
Like say like you open one for your children to retire, as opposed, because what you were speaking on.
Okay, so that's more of like it would be more of an UGMA or a minor IRA, Roth IRA. Actually, there is, which people don't know, there is no age, there is no minimum age for a Roth IRA. You basically, the Roth IRAs and a traditional IRA are based on having that you have income, you're receiving income, and the contribution you're making, the limitations are based on income. So if you'd like to offer a Roth IRA for your child, just simply state, you know, if asked or you get audited, well, they do have a job. I pay them to mow the lawn, to sweep the floor, to do their chores. That's it. They just have to, you just have to say there's some type of income for them to be able to contribute to an IRA, and which I've opened for my nephews, you know, and they've had one since the age of 10. I hire them. They do chores. They do. That's it. You do not have to file taxes or produce a W-2 for anything under $10,000. So if I pay what they make is $2,000 and the whole $2,000 go into the Roth IRA, okay, that was their choice to put the $2,000 in. You don't need tax records for anything under $10,000. So that's a great way to get your kids started and to have the opportunity for them to be able to use this money for, you know, quite a few options other than retirement.
And like you said, like the purchase of first home, or purchase their first car once they go off to college, or even pay college. And
well, not the first car. There are specifics that they can use it for. The purchase for first home, for its education. You know, if you're making a withdrawal before age 59 and a half, for premature withdrawal, meaning not for retirement, there are specifics that you can use it for.
Yeah. So, one of the good,
so education and a first-time home buyer being one of those.
Yeah. And that's one of the good things about
can we take us back to talking about history and how we can correct the things of the past to move to the present, to have an understanding of how we can overcome the things that were done in the past so that we can have a solid foundation to build on the present. You understand? Like the things that were being done, how do we circumvent the redlining, which is by forming a strong community that fends for itself. So my question, Ngwebe, could you lend your thoughts on that? What it is we can do to circumvent the things that are put on our path to stop our growth or to stop us from moving forward, so that we can overcome those hurdles and work within us, deal with our emotional selves to overcome this hardship that has been placed on us.
Yeah, and after your answer the question, there's two people that have their hands raised. So after Jane's question is answered, M and Adeshuku have a question next.
Okay. Okay, great. So, yeah, again, I'm gonna go off here. Is that first of all, I think the issue is that we, for one, to the point of early being brought up that we need to create businesses. I think that more importantly, we need to create sustainability individually. Not everybody's going to be a business owner. And that's something that we need to be clear about. Not everybody wants to go into business, but we all need to be financially sustainable. And what sustainable is when you can have your monthly needs met. Whatever you use to spend money on, your T-bills, food bill, your car note, cell phone, whatever, how can you finance that? And we usually finance it through jobs, right? But if there are no jobs, as we're seeing with artificial intelligence coming on the scene, jobs are being eliminated and moved into automation. So we need to find new ways to create finances, to create the sustainability that we're looking for. Most people think, well, you're going to find it in the money methodologies or the markets that are out here, your stock markets, your 401ks, IRAs, and things of those that are mentioned. Personally, and from the research that I've been doing and finding, is that You know, the money markets are just like Vegas. The house always wins. And we go in there thinking I'm going to put money in my 401k or IRA, and it's going to be there in my years when I retire. But what we don't factor in are the facts that it's a volatile market. We also don't factor in that there are recessions that can completely eliminate your entire savings. I, for one, fell victim in the last recession of 2007 and 2009, where I lost $250,000 in my 401k. People are losing money. From that same era, the senior citizen sector, ages 55 and up, or 60 and up, lost $4.7 trillion in their savings. So these are folks that have already worked 20 to 30 years, did their bid, retired, and then they go to pull out money and it's no longer there because it was tied up in the money market of their 401ks. And now they can't retire because the money's gone. Now they got to go and try to find another job, or they're losing their homes, or they're forced to live with their children, or they can't afford their doctor visits or their medicine. The life savings they work so hard for it to be there is no longer there. We don't know that recessions are cyclical. This whole monetary system is cyclical. And if you don't understand that, you're going to continue to fall victim. Let's talk to our elders and ask them about why is it my grandmother and generation before that didn't trust banks. Why did they put their money under their mattress or dig it in the backyard by a tree? Because they realized that banks were not something to be trusted. And that's not to say we should not, we should pull out our money now, but we have to think strategically and how we use banks and what we use them for. Getting yourself sustainable is learning how to leverage your money. We need to also learn about the power of credit, the power of, not just disputing all your monies, but having a plan. If you have a financial plan of why you're obtaining credit and what you're using it for, then you use that as a stepping stone to get to the next point. The next stepping point, which I'll bring out here, is the best place. And the question was, where can you put your money safest in? I'm going to give you this nugget. The best place you can put your money for savings is in whole life insurance, because this is where policies are built, where folks are able to create energy and wealth and velocity banking and infinite banking, that wealth. You don't have to be a business owner. You don't have to work 60 hours in your own business to try to make ends meet. You can put your money in these systems and employ it. Instead of you working for your money, the money works for you, and you create this intergenerational wealth. This is why Warren Buffett is the billionaire he is. This is why the Rockefellers is the way he is. And this is why the Vanderbilts are no longer who they were, because they did not follow the guidelines of creating trust and putting it in the right places where it can grow safer for you. So I know I dropped a lot on you.
Yes.
I'd love to talk more about it, but the point is that we need to really rewire our thinking. The banking system, the money methodologies of putting your money in stock markets, these things are volatile. Look up the history of recessions. You can Wikipedia and see it happens every 4 to 10 years or 5 to 10 years. We're in one right now where the value of your savings are in jeopardy because you're having to sit there. And you also find that these places, these houses are also restricting you from pulling your money out. When COVID started and people wanted to start liquidating their 401k, certain places like Fidelity froze their accounts. Banks can also freeze your accounts because you basically gave them the authority to hold your funds, and they're not going to give away money that's going to enable them to not make any money. So they'll freeze your accounts if they need to. So we need to understand the type of relationship we have with these money methodologies that we've been told to use, and find that they're not proven to help us when we need it most. So there's other ways to do it, and we need to start doing that education.
All right, but Chi-Chi, before you go to the 2 questions, I just want to put a pin in it real quick, because now we get down to the meat and potatoes. When Brother Mbwebe said that, put your money into life insurance policies, our sister Joy had an opposing view, and she did not agree. So after the questions, I want to come back and get Joy's perspective, because we're all here to learn and educate one another. And, just so young people know, different opinions doesn't mean that people don't necessarily agree. It just means there's another side to look at. And I definitely would love to hear Joy's perspective. But go ahead, Chi-Chi, go to the 2 questions. Chi-Chi, you there?
She's on mute.
Okay. Chi-Chi, you said we have 2 questions, right? I'm sorry.
Yes. Mr. Adeshuku, you're muted. Unmute yourself. Mr. Adeshuku.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, it's muted again. Tap it again. Tap it again, sir. Yes, we hear you now.
All right. I say hello, everybody. How are you?
Hello, sir.
Well, I'm back to college. You know, from hearing from all of you, it's very fantastic. Quickly, what I wanted to do ask is this: Miss Hamilton. You know, when she was talking, that's when I came in, and all that she has said, you know, actually, I think she should really go back to be a professor and begin to teach us right from elementary so that we can grow up to that level. Because that's exactly where our problem is. Our problem, lack of esteem, you know, not trusting each other, not patronizing with each other and everything. Listen, I'm from Nigeria and I've been in this country for a little while. You know, I see the similarities so identical that, you know, what is happening in Africa, look at it, Africa as a whole, 53 countries. And yet we've been toiled around and around by outsiders. Similarly is here. Now, Miss Hamilton said and gave us the history of what happened in Tulsa. We all had it recently also. We hear the story. It's going on in every neighborhood, including our brother over there who said the same thing. We need to really engage in learning what is the problem. Miss Duru said, you know, how can we do that? We can't do it overnight. We first of all have to patronize ourselves. If you got a business, let's say you have a restaurant, and if it's within my area, you know, I don't see any reason why I shouldn't go there to spend a few dollars to help you out. Okay. Number two, look at even the bodegas we're talking about. Recently, I was doing, we're just observing, okay? Any stretch of street where a couple of shops are, and again, I'm not saying this to disparage anybody or berate anybody. The brothers, you know, the Mexican brothers, the, you know, Spanish people, they come there, they put their little shop over there and everything. Would you believe that any Spanish person, regardless of where they come from in the region, they will come there to patronize them, okay? So a little storefront like this, 5 by 10, or no, I'm just exaggerating that area, you know, all of a sudden, finally, you find out, you know, it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger before it takes over that area. But for us, what is our problem, including myself speaking? We need to find out we have a problem. Let's get to the root of that problem. I look at Carver Savings Bank in Harlem, okay? By now, judging from the history of that bank, that bank should have been in the equivalent, I know it's a savings, you know, equivalent bank of JP Morgan or, you know, all this and other banks, and if not, at least close to it. How many of us do go there to save? How many of us supports them so that they can also turn around to loan our people when they want to buy a house, a car, or this and that? And we have experts, like Ms. Gordon said, that, you know, these are the areas the current situation is. But before we get to that area, we got to, first of all, lay the foundation, okay? We need to also teach our children, stop buying these sneakers of $300-400 that you can't even take to you can't even take it to what do you call it, a party, okay? $300-400. Look at people who invested. Look at people who take that money. It bothers me a lot, okay? I feel like crying. I went to school here. I graduated from Baruch, you know, MBA, you know, in finance and business, finance and investment. I did my master's in at Wagner College, you know, and I went to Cornell Industrial School of Labor Relations, you know, which put me into the position of representing union and everything. And I traveled extensively, seeing in different communities. And Guess what? The communities in New York is no different from the community in Chicago, I mean, all other areas. I look at it. There was a time we went to do some kind of convention in Philadelphia. I went to the neighborhood, my brothers and sisters, tears almost coming down my face. And nobody is telling me something, but the evidence is there, okay? Yeah. So I will implore Ms. Gordon, you know, before we get to that level, is it possible that we can get ourselves together to first of all knit ourselves so that we can patronize ourselves, we can help each other. All our brothers and sisters who are, you know, whom we know, they play football, they do this, they make money and everything. How much are they giving back? Not give, investing back in the community.
Elder Ade, Elder Ade, thank you so much. You hit on so many great points.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And we're running out of time now because we still have another question and still got our sister Joy to still speak on this, and our sister Jessica, who we don't want to forget, is still here on the panel with us. All right. But thank you so much, Elder, because you hit some great points. All right. And I guess Pam and Sandy, I guess y'all could circle back and we revisit it, because this is one of the reasons why we wanted to have a 3-part series, because I know we're just scratching the surface right now. Because I still want to come back to Joy when she didn't agree when our brother Mbwebe said, put your money in whole life insurance. She said no. And I've heard that before. I would love to know Joy's perspective after we get this next question. Chichi, you have the second question?
Yeah, it's from Joy.
Yeah. Oh, it's from Joy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right, I raised my hand.
The mic is yours.
Yeah. So in reference to, well, first of all, it goes back to what I stated about having goals. And let me preface this. I am a fully licensed life insurance agent, Series 7 broker, as well as a registered investment advisor. I believe in order to assist my clients with achieving their goals, I need to be able to handle everything, okay? So, and I've been licensed for 20 years. So basically, every product has a purpose. Life insurance is for exactly what it's primarily for what its name is. It's a life benefit. Your life ends, it pays out. Okay, there are restrictions to life insurance. Realize whatever you put into that, it is not primarily designed as a savings vehicle. You cannot access your money 100% in a life insurance policy. There are time restrictions. It can be anywhere from 8 years up that you can put your hands on all of that money that you have accumulated within there. Also understand, once you withdraw that money, once you withdraw 80% of that money, your policy collapses. It disappears. So the purpose that life insurance was there to reserve as a death benefit to take care of whatever needs you deem are necessary once you pass away is no longer available when you withdraw that money. So understand that. The primary purpose of a life insurance policy is not as a savings vehicle. In order for any product you put in place to help you achieve your goals, it needs to be used for the right purpose. So, like, I'm not saying whole life insurance isn't good, but it's good for its primary purpose. Savings within that policy are secondary. So that needs to be understood. As far as people losing all of their money during 2008, I have clients who have been with me since 1999. I have one of my first executives I brought on board as a client, who is still with me now, opened his brokerage account in 1999, still has holdings within that account that he had in 1999. They didn't disappear with the 2008 downturn. You lose your money and you lock in a loss when you sell and withdraw. Now, if you're not being advised accordingly and you panic and you do that, you've locked in your loss. If you stay put and you stay in the game for what your goal is, then look what happened. Almost immediately, 3 months after the financial collapse, basically the financial collapse in 2008, 3 months later, the market was moving up. It didn't jump up to 100% where it was before, but it occurred gradually. And it was finally stated, by the news and whoever else wanted to admit to it, during Obama's terms, the stock markets return now seeing with Trump. So it's based on being fully informed, understanding what your goal is, and applying the proper vehicles to achieve that goal that helps you weather these events. The stock market isn't performing 100%. But when I work with clients, and I hope other advisors do, I take risk tolerance into effect. I take into effect what their goals are, and that's how I go about setting their goals. The purpose isn't, I'm not a stock jockey. I'm not there to trade their accounts in and out. I'm there to help them achieve their goals, and that's how we proceed. So I'm not looking at the hottest, fastest stock there is. I'm looking at how we will achieve their goals according to their comfort level and their comfort with risk. And when that is done, yes, there are going to be some bumps. Yes, you're going to see your portfolios go up and down. But yes, you will recover if you stick to that goal and your strategies are put in place according to what that goal is. So I'll have clients who will attest. I had a client who held Cisco since 2000, and we seen it go up and seen it go down. But our goals, we were looking for dividend generating stocks. We were looking for, at that time, Cisco was a growth stock, but it didn't tank. I mean, it went down with the market. What's going on with Cisco now? They're looking to buy TikTok. The stock is moving up. So if you're looking for a quick hit and a quick gain in the market, that's a whole different set of goals, and most likely you will crash and burn in markets like this. Okay, so I make that clear. I work from strategies. I work from goals. I don't work on the fastest, hottest ticket in town. And I use the vehicles, and everyone else should use the vehicles and products for what the purpose is. And then follow your goals, follow your strategies. And if you're getting good advice, you will weather that storm. So whether it's a short-term or a long-term gain, that's how you put the goals in place according to that goal. So more the product. Life insurance is not primarily for cash accumulation.
Okay, but is there a way that you can borrow money against your insurance policy? And I asked this question because
you can borrow money, but you need to understand you cannot take 100% of that money out. So, and there are restrictions. So you can only borrow, maximum is, I think, 75% of what's in there. Before, or anything over than that, the policy collapses and it terminates.
Okay.
You have to understand the product and use it appropriately.
Oh. Brother Boybe, anything you wanted to say before we move on?
Yes. And again, well, let me be clear. I'm not a licensed, I don't sell insurance. So, I'll say that. But that doesn't mean I can't learn it, right? So the thing that I just wanted to raise is that there are different types of insurances, and most folks that get insurance is termed, which is only a death benefit. There are from what I've learned, there's 3 different types of whole life insurance, and that is not necessarily about you trying to pull it all out, but it's basically if you use infinite banking systems, you can use that in a way that you can, instead of going to your 401k, which is again not protected, and even though you said there could be a down, what if I am 65 and I have an issue, I have an emergency, and we're doing in this case, a pandemic, or we're during a recession, and that 3 months, or even if it's a year or 3 years, as the last recession hit, or Venezuela has been in a recession for over 2 years, when you can't have access to the funds when you need it most. So we can't, in these volatile markets, we can't predict when it's going up or when it's going down. And we can also predict that when it goes down.
But the same applies to life insurance.
But I'm not talking about life insurance in general. I'm speaking about when you put in a model of whole life insurance that allows you to pull not all of it, but you can use it to borrow enough to be sustainable. Just like what are my monthly bills for the month, multiply that by the year. in compounded interest in my cash asset value of my whole life insurance policy, I can pull that money out or a portion of that money out and not be
Doesn't work
dependent on
that way though.
Sure it does. Sure it does. I've been doing it for 4
Life
years.
insurance doesn't work that way.
Whole life insurance does. I've been
I
doing it
thought
for
you
4
said
years. I didn't hear you.
you've been selling.
Is a breakup. I'm sorry, say what you said.
You right with life insurance, you are not going. Okay, if you want to, first of all, it does not accumulate. But first, when you pay your
There's a
premium,
dividend rider. There's a
the
dividend
majority
rider.
of it,
There's a dividend rider that
right, and the
accumulates
dividend, the dividend pays. The dividend is a percentage of the premium you put in. Your premium
Absolutely.
first goes to pay your life insurance, and then there's
Right.
money left over from that. The money
that
left
goes
from
that goes
that
into a
is
cash
going-
asset.
Right, that's where the dividend occurs. So if your premium is $10,000 for the year, $10,000 is not going into a cash savings. It's first paying that premium, and then maybe 500 of that is going towards the cash. So you don't think because you're putting 10,000 in, you're going to have 10,000 sitting in there gaining dividends. That's
No
not
one
how
said
it
that.
works.
No one's implying that.
No,
That's not what I'm implying at all.
I'm saying in general. It's just a generalization.
Well, you said you mentioned the long run, the long game. That's what whole life insurance can be used for. It's not for something to start pulling out a year or 2 years from now. It's something that you create intergenerationally that you can will down.
Inflation isn't dollar for dollar. It's I just
I
want
never
people
said
to
that.
understand. I didn't say you said that. I'm saying generally, I want people to understand that the accumulation isn't dollar for dollar and that there are restrictions on accessing that money. You cannot, there's surrender charges. So if you do decide in year 5, I want the whole cash value back, life insurance surrender charges run 8 years or longer. You are going to get hit with a surrender charge before you can access that full cash value that has accumulated, depending on the year you take it out.
It's not smart to pull out the full cash value, though.
Weber and Joy, in the next series, we will
just basically, I just would like people to know.
I don't need to cut you guys off. I know that in the next series, we will have time to delve more into what both of you are talking about. Right now, I would like, because
life insurance is a piece of your financial plan.
Right now, because time is almost running out, I know we've been talking about like the problems that has faced the Black community, Black and minority community in starting off. Now, I would like us, before we leave, to talk about the things that we can do to build that community, such as advices on building our credit profile, the importance of paying our bills, the importance of patronizing Black banks, the importance of buying a home and keeping our home ground nice so that the property value goes up. I would like for us to, discuss solution to how we can, become a better community and grow, because yes, we talk about the things that has been done to us, but we also need to talk about the things that we do to ourselves that cost us. And like I said, part of this is not keeping good credit, is not maintaining what we have. We can't keep blaming others. At some point, we have to, learn and not let people keep us down, which boils down to—
Very true.
Which boils down to building our community. Cassandra, you are in the banking section. Please, could you—
Okay, so the best way I believe that we can build up our credit, number one, you got to have credit to have good credit. So most times people do shy away from it, but yeah, when you get out of college, some college kids actually have debt when they get out. So the key really is to keep whatever, credit you have at a minimum. When you use it, pay it off. If you can't afford to pay it off, don't use it. And that's how I say it. Keep those accounts open. So that's about, well, what I believe 35% of what goes into your FICO score. Then you also have, make sure that you pay your bills on time. That every time there's a late payment, you get dinged. So you got to make sure you pay your bills on time. The other part is credit mix. So you have a house, you have a car, you have credit cards. You got to make sure like all of your credit is not just at, department stores. It has to be on real estate potentially, or, car notes. You just have to have a good mix of your credit. And then you also have to make sure that your is the credit mix. I just kept looking at this over and over and over, but it's like, it's your credit mix and how long you have your credit. And that's important as well. Don't keep opening accounts for the sake of, trying to get more credit. If you have credit, the longer you have it, the longer it's a good standing, the better your credit score. And so, and you have to also be mindful what most lenders look at FICO scores, but you also have other lenders that look at like Vantage scores. You also have Experian, TransUnion, which, they're all different credit, companies that look at your score. So just be mindful of what you have out there. And what I always tell, I even tell my son, he's 22. I say, look at your credit score. Make sure you know what's out there because they make mistakes. And so you want to make sure that you're in a regular habit that you got Credit Karma, although, the jury's out whether it's a legitimate credit score, but you have some idea of where you are. And so you'll know what you need to work on.
Okay, suppose somebody doesn't have a credit and they need to start building their credit. What are the ways they can do that?
So you have, I think a lot of people they have Square Cash and that sort of thing. You have a lot of these fintechs, so to speak, that will enable a lot of our young people to kind of earn credit. And I believe Russell Simmons also had like some kind of credit, product. Because in order to build credit or get credit, you got to start somewhere. So there are some like cash cards and things like that that you can use, but there's also different, there's different ways that you can do it. And you can also go to, like, let's say the bank that you might have opened up from when you were a kid. You could probably go there because you've already built a relationship. So, those are the types of things that you might want to look at, a bank that you have an existing relationship with. Just, open up, like maybe if it's $500 or $1,000, but something that, once you're of age, that you're able to pay it off. That's the key. Paying it off, but leaving it open so that it shows your lenders that you have access to these facilities if you need to, but you're not in financial straits that you're constantly looking over and you're not overextending yourself.
Okay, how about secured credit? Like if nobody's willing to trust you to give you credits, you can start a secured credit line in order to build.
Well, so that was kind of like the credit cards that I was alluding to with Russell Simmons, and I forget what it's called, but those are the secure credit facilities that you'd have your paycheck deposited to it, but then they give you access to some additional funds. But don't do payday lending.
No.
Don't do payday lending or anything with usurious, interest rates.
Right.
Yeah, one thing I tell my daughter is don't let the credit cards use you, learn to use them. Credit cards, they have reward points. So I encourage her, when you charge a card, make sure you pay it off. You make money. They don't make money.
And I'm not advocating for one card over another, but like I know TD Bank has a rewards card, but if you earn so many rewards, you can use that to pay off your card. Now and that's where you have to be mindful of what the rewards translate to, because you have some that, you can buy all this, all these things, but if you just want to pay down your card, you can use those rewards points to pay down your card.
Fatima, you have a question on behalf of Ife?
Hi, yes, I do. The question was actually for Ms. Joy, and Ife asked, can you ask Ms. Joy how 401k or 403b plan compared to the ROTCH and traditional IRA, please? So basically how those plans compare to each other. That was from Ms. Joy.
She's breaking up. I didn't hear her clearly.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now, yes.
Sorry about that. So Ife is asking, can you how the 401k plan or the 403 plans compared to the ROTH and traditional IRA?
Okay, she would like a comparison of employer benefit plan to a Roth IRA?
The 401k and the 403b plan.
Okay, she would like a comparison of a 401k and a 403b plan.
Correct. And how do those compare to the ROTH and traditional IRA?
To the Roth IRA. Okay, great. So there are two differences. A 403b and a 401k are employer-based plans. So your employer is offering you a way to save for retirement. And within those two plans, the money, any contributions you make are deducted from your paycheck before they're taxed. So they're deducted pre-tax. And then you invest them within the 401k or 403b plan with a which is within a selected number of mutual funds within that plan that have been set up for you to invest in. So that's how the 401k and the 403b work. Any contributions you make to a 401k or 403b are 100% deducted from your income. So as far as the IRS is concerned, you never earn that money. So it lowers your taxation. It lowers your tax rate. So if you make $45,000 and for the year you contributed $5,000 to your 403b or your 401k, the IRS is only taxing you on $40,000. So that's another way to lower your taxation and to save for retirement, okay, at the same time. Now, Roth IRA is basically an individual, it's your own retirement account that you set up. Any money that goes in there after it's been taxed. You're making a contribution. You get to select any mutual fund, any stock, any investment item you want for it to be invested in that. The money still does grow tax deferred, but you do not get a deduction when you file your taxes. So those are the major differences with that.
That answers your question, Ife?
Does that answer your question?
She said yes. She said yes.
Yes, but I still had another question. So in regards to that, so I have, I was working for a company and they gave me some stock. When I left the company, they rolled the stock over into 401k and now it's saying that I have Vanguard. I don't even know what to do with that, honestly. I'm not contributing anything into it, but it's building, you know, money's accumulating. I haven't been putting anything into it, and I've never put anything into it at all because it came to me from stock. I don't know what to do with that, honestly. And the company that I work for is a nonprofit, so we don't have a 401(b). Is it 413(b)? I think it is.
A 401k or there are two, 401k or 403b.
Because it's a nonprofit, but we don't have either.
Right, 403b.
Yes.
Okay. So when you left the company, they probably had in place an automatic rollover if you were no longer employed there. So what you have now at, I believe you said, is Vanguard, is an IRA, a rollover IRA account. So it's now holding the money that you had in your 403b or 401k. And basically, if you did not select the mutual funds or the exchange traded funds that it's being held in, they basically rolled it into similar funds to the one that was in your 403B. If your company does not have a retirement plan in place, then you can keep that IRA account there. You don't have to contribute to it, but pay attention to it. Vanguard does have advisors available if you have any questions or you want to make any changes to that account. So, make use of them. They're there, they're free of charge. Any questions you have, call them up and ask. But that account will stay intact. It will continue to grow or go down if the market does go down, but it will recover as the market recovers as well. So you'll see the volatility as it reflects in your investments in the market, but you do not have to contribute to it. You're not required to.
Thank you.
Pamela Hamilton.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say one thing into your question about what do we do to change? And one of the things I wanted to talk about is having family businesses, because then those things where you're trying to invest for your kids, the money you give them becomes a tax deduction if they're working for your business. And so they can then start to invest that money early on as part of the business, and they can learn how to have a business, and they can learn how to work in a business. And by having that business, you can bring in multiple different streams of income into that business. And even if your kids are small, you can have a limited liability, a limited company. And that way, just you are the head of it, or just you and your spouse. And the kids don't have any control over it, but they have interest in it. And so there's different things you can do to set up where you are building wealth as a family, and your kids are getting, learning how to have that self-esteem issue built up. And so they're learning that their self-worth inside your business because they're growing it. When you go to Indian restaurants and stuff like that, all of those kids are working the restaurants. And then when they get grown, they work the restaurants, they own it because they know how to do it because they've learned how. And so when we teach our kids how to build businesses, or how to have multiple streams of income, so when one thing goes down, you're not crashed. That's one of the key things we could be doing.
Mr. Deshuku, I'm going to pass you over for Jamines Brown and then come back to you if we still have time.
Fine with me. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the question earlier about the custodial Roth IRAs was my question. Just opened up one, and I'm unsure about how much money to put in on a monthly basis, but I was just curious, since we were talking about different avenues to save our money, but how we can still have access to that money. I'm unsure if once I put that money in there, is there a time that I have to have that in there until I can pull any out, or does it have to stay in there and accumulate until they reach the age of 18?
Can I answer?
Yes.
Hi. Okay. With a Roth IRA, it specifically is there for retirement. 59.5 is the targeted retirement age that it can be withdrawn without penalties, with a few exceptions. If it's held for 5 years, then they can make withdrawals for first-time homeowner or towards education, or if there is some type of an emergency or issue without having a penalty, but those are specific reasons for withdrawals. The targeted age is not 18. 18 is the age in which they're considered an adult and they have access to the account. But if they don't know you have the account there, then you don't have to worry about them accessing it. So that's your call on that one, and making sure the money stays put for what the goals are. But other than that, the true target age in a retirement account for withdrawals is 59.5 without having a penalty.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fatima, you have 2 questions we have 2 minutes. Can you ask those questions?
Sure. So the chief asked, how do we pull our resources together to buy franchises and create employment opportunities for our youth? I will just read the other questions.
Wait, Fatima, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, who do you want to answer the question? You want Pam, Cassandra, Joy?
General questions. So whoever can answer that one.
Okay.
So I would say if you're going to pull your resources together, the best way to do that is to set up an LLC, which is a limited liability company, and to have everything in writing, have an operating agreement and all those things in writing. So there's no forgetting or, battles about it later, no disputing. So once you set up the LLC, you would set up some people that would manage it. You would set up a couple of member managers, and you would make sure you have regular meetings so that everybody is on board and understand what's happening together. Then that LLC would get the EIN number and set up a bank account to put all of the funds in, and only set people would have access to the funds, the treasurer and one other person could. And then you guys can have meetings. So you report, you say what the standards are when they can pull money out and what for. And then you research the franchises that you're looking at to find one that's suitable for the group to run.
Good advice.
Oh wow. I wish we can go on and on.
Yeah.
So interesting. Then we said 5 p.m. and I know some people are itching to go to do some other thing. Mr. Adeshiku, I'm sorry we are out of time and we could no longer take your question.
Okay.
You know what, Jane? What I would like to do is give everybody, each of our 5 panelists, a minute or so just to, give people their contact information, where they could find them.
Yeah.
So if they have any questions that weren't asked tonight, they can contact each panelist directly. And hopefully we can have our panelists back in another month, because I know we've only scratched the surface in
We
terms
haven't
of
even started.
So Pam, would you like to give everyone your contact information again, where they can reach you and anything you want to promote that you have going on?
Okay, so again, my name is Pam Hamilton. The best way to reach me is law@pamhamilton.com. That's my main website. And at the moment, I'm going to be doing a business summit called the Business Profit Equation. It's a virtual summit. It's free. It's October 8th through the 10th. And you can visit that at thebusinessprofitequation.com. And anyone that wants to come to it can. I'll write that information in the chat. And that's about it.
Cassandra, how you doing?
I am good. So you can reach me on LinkedIn, Cassandra Gordon. You'll see my face. Also Gordon C, as in Gordon Cassandra 232@gmail.com.
All right. And what many people don't know is I was Cassandra's first job.
Yes, he was. And I'm Joy's customer, believe it or not.
Yeah. All right. Jessica.
Hey.
You over there being shy, but it's all
no,
right.
I had a lot to say, but it was a lot that needed a lot of the clarification on the tech of the financial piece. But so like I just mentioned before, I talk about these emotional aspects, mental aspects to our empowerment and how that looks. And my email, you just email us my last name, Marshall_Jessica, JESSYCA @hotmail.com. I have some platforms. I have a podcast and these things that I'll be putting out, but email.
Okay, you froze for a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Looks like my connection's acting up. Sorry. But yeah, but I did want to say this was a great conversation, but underneath all of this, before people can some people can even get to this point, so they have to work on the healing aspects of what's driving their behaviors
Yes.
Their outlook on their life. I said, this is great. And I'm not trying to dismiss any of this conversation, but there's a whole other part of the audience that I know really would appreciate some support and understanding of how to handle these other challenges so they can get to this point. And including myself, there's struggles that all of us kind of go through at some point, but this was great.
We thank you.
I had hoped we would do in this session.
Next time.
Delve deep into finances.
Look at all my notes. I had a ton of notes and stacks down there.
Don't worry, you can put them to use. Just could you also write down everything you said in the chat, just so.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Weber?
Yes. Make sure I'm muted. Okay. Yes. You can reach me LinkedIn and Bueve. Actually, I'll put that in the chat. I didn't put the LinkedIn, but Crypto Woke at Facebook, IG. My website is cryptowokemovement.com. And just a real quick thing is that I don't talk about cryptocurrency. I started out as cryptocurrency, but the etymology of the word crypto is cryptic, which means hidden. So I talk about hidden money methodologies that have been used and transferred for the last 200 years to wealthy, rich families. And I've also come out with a book that just came out, as Tad had mentioned in the beginning. It's called Pt1 in the Generational Wealth Planning for Black folk or Black people. And you can actually find that again also on cryptowokemovement.com. And I also do a financial master online course of financial sustainability through my company called the Crypto Woke Financial Sustainability Movement, where we're looking to educate people about alternative measures that can be used to create basically funds that you can use to live off your savings and investments and not have to be tied down to a job. Because once you lose your job, your source of income is lost. You need to find another way to do that. Thank you all for the pleasant dialogue. I love it.
And Sister Joy. Sister Joy.
I actually just shot out my email in the chat, but I can be reached at joyjackinfo@gmail.com.
All right. Well, we want to thank you all so much. And of course, I have to do my shameless plug. Again, I'm Coach Tad Cronwell of Better Days Ahead Fitness. I definitely want to shout out to my business partner, my 13-year-old daughter, Kayla, who is on the check-in. And I thank you all for the information. It's been very informative. I've learned a lot. Hopefully we can get everyone back next month so we can do a follow-up, because I think what we did this evening was just scratch the surface of so much of this invaluable information. And I'm quite sure there's so much more that everyone could add on and just want to clarify for some of us who are all just at the first grade level of learning financial literacy. We put this on for our young adults. So shout out to Chi-Chi. Hi, Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi and all the other young people that are tuned in, because we have some teenagers, some preteens, and we have young adults, and some of us older adults who are just hearing a lot of this information for the very first time. So I just want to personally thank each and every one of y'all for participating. And I'll step off my soapbox. Jane?
Thank you so much, guys. My heart is so filled with joy. All the panels in this virtual meeting, we appreciate you. We thank you for what you had to bring forth. And all those of you who logged in, we hope we were able to give you some good information. Like Coach Cromwell said, we barely scratched the surface. And it's important that as a community that we continue to have this talk, that we lift up one another, that we help each other heal and mend and build a better, sustainable community for us, both in America and in Africa, because something that is going on here is also going on in Africa. And it's important that we Black, we get it together so that we can rise as a people. Somebody said, each person pull the other up. It's important that we as a community pull each other up. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful being with you this evening.
Thank you guys.
God bless you all.
Also,
Thank you.
We have, she forgot to mention, our Instagram name is PRNTCF, and we also have a website if you want to know more about our charity foundation. It's called PRNTCF.org. So you're welcome to check it out, and we'll be actually hitting you up on our social media really soon, okay? For those who have social media.
Follow us. The website will tell you a little bit about what it is we do, who we are. Thank you, guys. God bless you all.
All right, take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Good
evening. Nice meeting you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.